Trent Cotney and John Kenney are dedicated to helping the construction industry with legal business and safety challenges. Welcome to this week's episode of Law and Mortar.
There we go.
Hey, this is Trent Cotney. I'd like to welcome everybody to the last episode we're probably going to do this year of Law and Mortar. As always, I got John Kenney with me. John, how are you doing?
Doing great. Yeah, I can't believe that we're at the end of 2025 already.
Yeah, no, it's been nuts, and you and I have had just an insane travel schedule, and not in the same places. I mean, we're all over the place. So,
Yes,
I haven't
sir.
I haven't counted how many days of travel it's been, but when things die down here, I'm going to sit down and figure out how many days we were on the road. So, it's interesting. I've even if we're not talking, I follow you all the time on social media, right? And I saw that you recently had a pretty interesting webinar on succession planning, and I've had the same questions come up. I was just at Best of Success, and then I've spoken variety of other places, and it's a big topic. It's something that keeps coming up. I think private equity is still out there and is still doing its thing, but I think it's died down a little bit. And I think sort of the gold rush has kind of died down with it. Part of that issue with it is I think, the debt servicing is more, and I think, you've got platforms that are already created, so you're looking to bolt on to those existing platforms, right? And I think there's still a lot of opportunity, a lot of great platforms that are out there, but really a lot of people want to know, especially generational companies, how do I properly engage in succession planning? So I'm curious to see kind of what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I mean that's why we when we did this webinar, we handled it from a couple ways, talking about how to actually prepare for succession planning and not make it a 10-year project. How to do it get something going within 6 months and start putting your own internal committees together, and how important it is to have proper systems and processes in. Basically, before you can plan in succession, you have to be able to come up with a way that the owner or whoever's in charge at the time can be pulled out of the company without the company changing. That's really it in a nutshell, right? It's the company lives on and whoever you want to pass the company on to. But also hit about the fact if a lot of companies still are engaging in that 5 to 6 year plan of wanting to get out through PE or M&As, whatever it may be. Well, that's still part of planning. You still have to get your ducks in a row, and especially today, you brought up a great point about debt servicing and the other things that come along with it. Your current buying power that's out there today is looking for a solidly well-run company. I think you're right. The gold rush of just trying to vacuum up everything on the street, I think, is pretty much coming to an end, at least for the near future, anyway. So those are the kind of things we went over. And you're right, it is an interesting topic. It is fluid, and there's a lot of things to it.
Yeah, it, one of the so again, nobody calls me with good news, right? The where I see the problems come up is where the current owner may have unrealistic expectations about what the company's worth or what the value is. And oftentimes there's a lot of benefit in getting a third party valuation done, right? Regardless of whether you're selling to, your son or daughter, or you're selling to private equity or something else. You want to really know what your company's worth, right? You want to have somebody independent to say, hey, this is the true value of what my company is worth as of today. And those values change, right, depending on the economy and other things. So that's important. The other thing I think is important is you've got to put it in writing. You got to take the time to get the plan down to make sure that everyone understands what's going to happen and when it's going to happen and the timetable for that. Because you and I have both seen it over and over and over again. You've got generational type companies. You've got a son or a daughter who's upset with, ownership and decides to form their own company and splits off, right? And look, if that's acceptable, that's fine. But, regardless of whether it's a key employee or it's, someone you're related to, the goal would be to have some continuity. And I think putting that in writing from a legal perspective, I think is just critically important.
Yeah, and
Um,
it's like you say, it doesn't matter who you're going to sell it to. The evaluation becomes an important part because unfortunately, a lot of people in any business overvalues the worth of their own business. So get it all done up front and then do your reviews every 6 months or so with your team and make sure everything is still the way it needs to be. So when the time comes, it's a smooth, easy, well, nothing's ever easy, but it's as easy and smooth as it possibly could be.
Yeah, right. You don't want to wait until there's a crisis event, right? You want to take care of it now so that you got a plan in place. And I say this with regard to everything. I just talked about ice raids and how you need a plan in place, or if OSHA comes to a job site, it's the same kind of thing. Take the time. We got a few weeks here at the end of the year where it's going to quiet down. Take the time, put a rough draft of a plan together, and then start fleshing it out, get it on paper. Make sure that you've consulted with counsel, CPA, look to those third party valuations. And then when the time comes, everybody knows what's going on. So, you know,
Exactly.
the other thing, I was working on an article for next year, and it was on sort of state of the industry. What do you think 2026 is going to be? And, the one word that I kind of thought about was, I think it's going to be transitional in nature. I think there is a lot of technology that is out there that is transforming our industry daily. And one of the biggest topics, you and I have both, spoke on it before for various organizations, is AI and the impact of AI, not just in construction, but in roofing in particular. So, you and I kind of talked a little bit. I know you're doing something interesting with that. So why don't you tell everybody kind of what you're planning?
Yeah, so to make it easier and understandable, what I've done is I'm going to be releasing after the holidays, so right around the first week of January, and it's going to be a new free training. All right, so you don't have to pay for it, it's free. You can't beat that. It's going to be about 45 minutes of information. And what it's going to be called, so when you're looking for it, is AI and roofing, what contractors need to know. All right, so this is all about getting you ready and understanding. Hopefully the outcome that you're going to see is the way I intended it, cutting through the hype, and it'll show you exactly where AI can help your roofing companies today. And actually any construction company for that matter, estimating, project management, service, safety, scheduling, because it's all going to be affected by AI and you need to integrate it. And you got to learn now how to understand it. That's number one. So hopefully, you go through this, and I built the program on real operations, not generic tech theory. All right. I want to state that. And I want you to understand that I've taken the real world stuff that we know we have to do and how it can be incorporated with AI and actually give you good results. So hopefully it's going to give you a clear path to understanding and how to adopt AI without, most importantly, disrupting your teams. Because AI can be a big disruptor when you talk about it to people. They get very scared, nervous, and move away from it and how you're going to put it into your company. And then at the end, you're going to get a notebook, not a notebook, I'm sorry, a workbook that you can download and actually use with inside your company to see where your systems and processes are today. And then what, because you got to get them to a certain point or AI is actually useless. It's like anything else. If you have bad information going into AI, it's going to come out with the same bad information as any other software or technology out there.
Yeah, and it's interesting, it reminds me of the first computers, bad data in, bad data out. And AI is an incredible tool, but oftentimes, and I've sat through, as many AI seminars as I've given, and a lot of times it's just fluff, right? You don't get the prompt, you don't understand, they talk about conceptually how you can use it, but they don't really tell you this is what you need to enter, this is what you need to do. And I think training on that, especially in roofing, where there isn't as much knowledge, as let's say other industries, is going to be really important. So I'm looking forward to that. The other thing I would say is, every single company that's listening to this, every single owner or person that's listening to this, your company should have an AI policy as part of the employee manual, right? You got to have something that talks about protecting confidential information because, we just recently subpoenaed ChatGPT and asked for the entire history, including all the chats and the deleted history, which you can get, right? So you need to recognize that all of that stuff is discoverable, making sure that you've got some guardrails internally so that your employees aren't sharing confidential information or proprietary information, things like that. It's critically important, especially as we expand and AI keeps getting stronger and stronger and stronger. So, really interesting topic. I find myself in my free time thinking about that in the future and how it's going to affect our industry because it's transformative. It's one of those things along with automation that I think is going to bring us to a different level. It's going to be interesting to see what our industry looks like even 5 years from now. So, um, John, I want to end the year on a strong note, right? And this is your favorite time, so I've got a question here.
All
Uh,
right.
the, the question is from Darren, and of course, I like to keep it on topic. So Darren's question is he's heard a lot about AI, and do we have any suggestions on one or two companies or platforms that would be good for using with roofing and AI? Now, obviously, we don't call out, construction specific platforms, but I can tell you, what I use personally, and it's not necessarily a recommendation, it's just personal. You know, within the firm, within our law firm, we have specialized AI that has, extra security and confidentiality in it called Harvey AI. So that's available. We don't use it, or I don't use it for a lot of things other than to sort of, make sure that case law is still good, trust but verify kind of thing. Personally, I use, Gemini from Google, and I use ChatGPT. They have different outcomes, and some are better for using different things. But John, I'm curious to see kind of what you use and how you use it.
Yeah, so on a personal basis, been experimenting with AI for quite a while now and finding out works well, what doesn't. Definitely ChatGPT. The only thing, and I go back to what you just said, to caution it with by having the policy, understand that what you put in there, unless it's something that has been developed and they're using them as a backdoor lock-in, your information becomes part of the world database of what they go to search to come up with answers. So understand that critical information. Like I know people talk to me about, well, we're going to put in our financials. Well, understand if you put in your financials, then it's kind of open, right? Not even from a legal standpoint, just understanding that it's like anything else. I have used Gemini, as you say, and also I started a little bit with the Microsoft AI. I believe Copilot is the term they're using, but with Excel. It works really well. If anybody's having some trouble with formulas with Excel and back and forth, it's actually the best thing that I found because it actually is developed for Microsoft products. So give it a try. Those are the things. I haven't used any, over the market as you've been just talked about there because I don't have a need for that. But there's a lot of things out there. Just again, get yourself educated and understand what your needs are. That's most important.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's a very useful tool. It saves time, and time is money. So I think every contractor out there is going to be using it if they're not already. It's just a matter of time, right? So I'd like to end with this. I want to wish everybody happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. We value our listeners. John, it's been an incredible year. I look back and think about all the places we've been and how much we've accomplished in one year, and it's a mountain of stuff. And I want to thank you, my friend. I enjoy being able to continue to do this with you. I wish you and your family a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and thank you for continuing to be my friend. So, with that, I want to thank everybody. Make sure you tune in for the next episode of Law and Mortar. You can always reach me at trent.cotney at arlaw.com or anywhere social at Trent Cotney. John, how can they reach you?
Well, first of all, I wish everyone out there exactly the same. I won't go through the long version of it, and to you as well, my friend. And I do call you with good news. So,
You
that's
do,
so
yeah.
I got to take credit for that. So, anybody out there can reach out at any time and catch me at my email, which is jkenney@cotneyconsulting.com, or on social media, jkenney. Look me up. Happy to talk to you always. And I agree. It's time to I got another week of travel, and then I'll be back and see everybody in the 26 era.
Sounds great, man. Looking forward to it. Thank you guys again.
Bye now.